This is Cindy Cisneros, owner of Creatively LLC, and this is the Create Well Minutecast, episode 122. And today I want to talk about grants for artists. Grants are a great way for artists to be able to support their ongoing creative work. It's almost like you can think of it as each grant you apply for is like a job application for you to be able to continue creating. In fact, there are other countries that have established things like artist grants and residencies into their infrastructure in such a way that it allows artists to use them as gainful employment for their creative work within the infrastructure of those countries. And so while it works a little bit differently everywhere, I want to talk to you a little bit about grants available near you, which is geographically near me. So I'm going to talk in a little more detail about those, but also talk to you about those that are available abroad, both in case you're abroad and you're seeing this, but also just as an illustration of maybe just a model of where grants could go for us here in the US, because it's very inspiring. First and foremost, grants are, as I said, getting monetary compensation to you that you don't have to pay back for you to be able to continue to make your work. It is investment in you as a creative person to continue to make your artwork. Now, they come from lots of different places. So let's start about talking about some grant opportunities in Maryland. Now, kind of the two major buckets that I've found as I've done research on grants are public and private funding. Public funding comes from government. Private funding comes from organizations. A lot of times they have relationships and friendships with each other where they contribute to help have grants that can support artists or programs that work together. A lot of times they are separated and there's lots of different things. And the one in the state of, there's many of these public and private within the state of Maryland even, but there's one program that I'm the most familiar with. And so that's the one that I'm going to talk to you about specifically in this video and in the article that goes along with that. And that is the Maryland State Arts Council. They offer a variety of different grants for artists. Now, this is through a state-funded program. The Maryland State Arts Council's grants have different timelines for applications, but don't let this stress you out, because the ones I'm going to emphasize today, you can apply for on a rolling deadline. So you can apply for it at any point. You can apply for it online, and once you've applied for it, they get read once a month, and that's just ongoing all the time. So that's less stressful and a good way for you to start to kind of get used to the whole process. And you can resubmit a grant after you've submitted it once if you want to make changes or improvements, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The way that the Maryland State Arts Council works is it's kind of separated geographically. Additionally, it is over these geographical area councils like Howard County Arts Council and Anne Arundel and Carroll County, and a lot of these separate arts councils are the arms of the Maryland State Art Council. And so in that way, the Maryland State Arts Council is able to support arts in Maryland in this really beautiful infrastructure. So the two grants that I want to talk to you about that I told you are rolling and that you can look at and apply for anytime throughout the year through Maryland State Arts Council, I'm getting my plurals confused, are creativity grants and professional development grants. Now, professional development grants allow you as an artist or as an organization, both of these are whether you are a large or small arts organization or an independent artist, to grow in knowledge or skill set within a specific subject area. So if you are an artist or an artist group or organization, large or small, and you're seeking to develop or grow your skill set within a specific subject area, and you have found that resource that you wish to use to develop or grow yourself as an artist, you can apply for a professional development grant to request the funding to use that resource. And so the specific example I'll use to illustrate is the creativity coaching that I offer. There is a package that you can use to request professional development grant funding to get yourself into a better and more flowy creative state to improve yourself as an artist in the way that you're able to turn out work. The Maryland State Arts Council did award me a professional development grant, for example, to pursue the completion of my licensure as a creativity coach. So taking classes in creativity coaching in order to help you. So being able to just pay it forward to the health of the creative community, for example. You can also, if you're wondering if something is applicable, the council is very approachable, and you can ask, is this applicable? Is this something I could use this grant for? The second type of grant I wanted to talk about from the Maryland State Arts Council is a creativity grant. Now, this is slightly different in, yes, you can be a group or an organization, an individual artist, you can all apply, but this is to support a specific creative project that you're working on. Or if you're an organization or a group, this is to support your operational budget for the year, in which case you would, just describe your mission and what kind of operations you would need the support for. And this would allow you to continue to create as an artist. Now, I'm going to include the link to where you can read more about these grants and other grants that you can apply for and read about everything wonderful that the Art Council does, including, and please don't be overwhelmed, support on how to write a grant, because the expectation is not that everyone has an individual set aside just for grant writing. Certainly larger organizations in the arts might, but an individual artist, the expectation is just that you're going to do your best, and that perfection is not what the organization is trying to support. They're trying to support creativity in the arts in Maryland, absolutely. So I encourage you to take advantage of resources like this. There are absolutely other grant opportunities available privately and publicly throughout Maryland and throughout the U.S. There are some that are available, all the way on the West Coast that you can apply from anywhere, all the way even on the East Coast and all throughout. Some are state specific, some are not. There are archives and lists of a lot of these grants that artists have put all together and said, these are great ones, or these are the best recommended ones. And I encourage you to search through those. I have linked one for you that I found to be a pretty good list for 2022 to take a look at. And listen, I know that grants can seem like, oh, well, only this and only those artists and only these but I encourage you to take your art seriously enough to apply. Okay, and so now, as promised, I want to talk to you too about grant opportunities abroad, both so you have an idea about what's going on in the world around us, but also potentially how these could be a model for how, and maybe how they are a model for some places to start to use in the United States. So there's 3 different places that I want to talk about around us. So I want to talk about grant opportunities abroad in Germany as an example. So in Germany, and I live in the United States, so I have less of a grasp of their programs abroad other than what I've read than I've had involvement in some of these programs in the States. So bear with me if I make mistakes, deep apologies, and please correct me. Come on here and correct me and tell me what you know and give us more information. I would greatly appreciate that. But in Germany, from what I understand, arts and culture are both privately and publicly funded by companies and foundations, but by states also supporting, like the state also supporting the private efforts of donors. But there are also tax breaks for artists and grant programs, which allows the government to help support a social class this is so cool, a social class of independent creatives so that they can have a security similar to those who are gainfully employed. In other words, receiving a regular paycheck and sitting in with an employer and that sort of thing. So they really can consider applying for grants and residencies, and these sort of things really do operate like job applications in a sense in Germany. And that model is super cool and inspiring. And I have a link here that I've cited to read a little bit more about that. That links to some other places to read a little bit more about it. I also want to talk a little bit about Canada. So this is really cool. Canada separates, so there are lots of grant programs in Canada also, but specifically speaking of the Canadian Arts Council in Canada, they separate their grants into 6 separate components to support the arts and culture. And one is to for the creation of organizations and individual artists to sustain the work in their creative communities. Another is for the creative communities to be able to continue and create and share the arts. Another is for the arts and culture of the First Nations and peoples from Canada to support their artistic practices. Another is for the practices and arts across Canada to be sustained and continued. And finally, to support the practicing artists of Canadians abroad. And I've got a link here to read more about arts and grants and residencies in Canada and how they support the artists there. And as a final model, I wanted to talk about in England. There is public money from the government, but also in Canada, there is a national lottery used to make sure, so this is combined with the public money from the government, this national lottery funded money that is, let me back up. So there is also a pool of money that you get by lottery to make sure that creativity amongst arts is given a chance to thrive. So what is so exciting to me about reading all of this is how many creative ways creativity is supported. And I do feel like the exciting thing about creatives, and this is redundant but so important, is their creativity. And so my point of this whole piece is really to encourage you to look and see what's around you in terms of grants, to put your hat in the ring and to support your creativity with the grants that are available to you, to consider your work worthy, but also to throw your voice out there in your community in whatever way you can in terms of what grant programs are available and how you can influence them to support the arts as you are an artist within your community. That was a lot. I hope that was helpful. I will link the article with all of this information there. And as always, I'm available to speak and help you in whatever way is useful. All right, guys.